What happens when a seasoned television host refuses to play nice with Hollywood royalty? You won't believe what unfolds when Meghan Markle sits down with Lara Spencer on Good Morning America, and things spiral completely out of control. This isn't your typical celebrity chat. This is a full-blown confrontation that ends with one of the most dramatic exits we've ever witnessed on live television. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds. Last night's episode of Good Morning America started innocently enough, with Lara Spencer welcoming the Duchess of Sussex to discuss her latest humanitarian initiatives. But what began as a seemingly standard celebrity appearance quickly transformed into a verbal battlefield that had viewers glued to their screens and social media exploding with reactions. The tension was palpable from the moment Meghan settled into the interview chair, her perfectly composed smile masking what would soon reveal itself as barely contained frustration. Lara, known for her no-nonsense interviewing style, wasted no time cutting through the pleasantries. "Meghan, let's talk about your recent comments regarding the royal family," Lara began, her tone measured but pointed. "You've made some pretty serious allegations. How do you respond to critics who say you're capitalizing on your royal connections while simultaneously attacking the institution?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Meghan's smile flickered for just a moment before she composed herself, but the damage was already done. The battle lines were drawn. "I think that's a gross mischaracterization of my intentions," Meghan replied, her voice carrying a slight edge. "I've always been committed to speaking my truth and advocating for causes I believe in. The fact that some people find that threatening says more about them than it does about me." But Lara wasn't backing down. If anything, she seemed energized by Meghan's defensive response, leaning forward slightly as she prepared her next assault. "Speaking your truth is one thing, but what about the impact on your family? Prince Harry's relationship with his father and brother has reportedly deteriorated significantly since your departure from royal duties. Do you take any responsibility for that?" The studio fell silent except for the barely audible hum of cameras. Meghan's jaw tightened visibly, and for the first time since sitting down, her carefully maintained composure began to crack. "I think it's incredibly unfair to suggest that I'm responsible for family dynamics that were problematic long before I entered the picture," Meghan shot back, her voice rising slightly. "The narrative that I'm some sort of manipulative outsider who destroyed a happy family is not only false, it's harmful." Sensing blood in the water, Lara pressed harder, her journalistic instincts overriding any concern for diplomatic interviewing. "But surely you must acknowledge that your public statements have consequences. When you speak about feeling unsupported by the royal family, when you discuss mental health struggles that allegedly weren't addressed, you're making serious accusations against one of the world's most respected institutions." "Respected by whom?" Meghan's voice cut through the studio air like a knife. "By people who've never experienced what it's like to be scrutinized, criticized, and vilified by the press on a daily basis. By people who've never had their mental health dismissed when they're crying out for help." The conversation was spiraling rapidly, and viewers could sense they were witnessing something unprecedented. This wasn't the polished, media-trained Meghan the public was accustomed to seeing. This was raw, unfiltered emotion breaking through years of carefully constructed public relations. Lara, perhaps recognizing she had struck a nerve, decided to go for the jugular. "Let's talk about your business ventures then. Netflix deals, Spotify partnerships, all interviews. It seems like you've found numerous ways to monetize your royal experience. How do you reconcile that with your claims of wanting privacy and a quiet life?" The words hit Meghan like a physical blow. Her perfectly manicured hands gripped the arms of her chair, and her eyes flashed with unmistakable anger. "Are you seriously suggesting that I don't have the right to earn a living? That because I married into the royal family, I should somehow be prohibited from pursuing professional opportunities?" Meghan's voice was now openly hostile. "The hypocrisy is astounding. Male members of the royal family have business interests. They write books, they give speeches, but when I do it, it's somehow inappropriate?" "That's not what I'm suggesting at all," Lara replied coolly, clearly enjoying having gotten under her guest's skin. "I'm simply pointing out the contradiction between claiming to want privacy while simultaneously putting your personal life on display for profit." "Profit?" Meghan's voice cracked with indignation. "You want to talk about profit? Let's talk about the millions of dollars generated by tabloid magazines printing lies about me and my family. Let's talk about the cottage industry built around tearing me down. But when I try to control my own narrative, suddenly that's problematic? The studio audience was completely silent now, transfixed by the verbal combat unfolding before them. Production assistants could be seen frantically whispering into headsets, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the drama continue to play out. Lara, sensing she had her guest exactly where she wanted her, delivered what would prove to be the final blow. Meghan, I think what many people struggle with is the perceived victimhood narrative. You married a prince, lived in palaces, had access to resources most people can only dream of. And yet the story is always about how difficult things were for you. At what point do you take responsibility for your choices rather than blaming everyone else? The question landed like a bomb in the studio. Meghan's face went through a series of expressions: shock, hurt, and finally, blazing fury. She sat in stunned silence for several long seconds, and viewers could practically see her internal struggle between maintaining her composure and unleashing her genuine feelings. When she finally spoke, her voice was dangerously quiet. I cannot believe you just said that to me. The lack of empathy, the complete dismissal of documented harassment and discrimination. This is exactly why we had to leave. This is exactly the kind of thinking that makes people believe that having privilege means you can't experience pain or injustice. Meghan stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the studio floor. The sound cut through the tension like a gunshot. You know what? I'm done. I came here in good faith to discuss important issues, to talk about the work I'm doing to make a difference, and instead I get ambushed with gotcha questions and victim-blaming rhetoric. She began removing her microphone with shaking hands, her anger now fully unleashed. This is exactly why the media landscape is so toxic. This is why people are afraid to speak their truth. Because instead of having honest, respectful conversations, we get this performance designed to humiliate and diminish. Lara, perhaps realizing things had gone too far, attempted to salvage the situation. Meghan, I don't think that's fair. These are legitimate questions that people are asking. Legitimate questions? Meghan whirled around, her voice echoing through the studio. What's legitimate about trying to make me feel guilty for surviving a system that was designed to break me? What's legitimate about suggesting that I should just accept mistreatment because I had the audacity to marry someone I love? The production crew was in chaos now, some trying to gesture for Meghan to sit back down, while others seemed frozen by the unprecedented nature of what they were witnessing. I will not sit here and be lectured by someone who has never walked in my shoes about responsibility and victimhood, Meghan continued, her voice now carrying throughout the studio. I will not pretend that systemic racism and institutional gaslighting didn't happen just to make other people comfortable. She threw her microphone pack onto the coffee table with enough force that it bounced and nearly fell to the floor. Find someone else to be your punching bag, Lara. I'm done being everyone's favorite target. With that, Meghan Markle strode off the Good Morning America set, her heels clicking decisively against the studio floor as cameras continued to roll, capturing every second of her dramatic exit. The studio remained in stunned silence long after she disappeared behind the curtain, leaving Lara Spencer sitting alone at the interview desk, the weight of what had just transpired settling over the shocked production team and the millions of viewers who had just witnessed television history in the making.